Welcome to Game Crashers, a podcast dedicated to kicking open the door to your next favorite thing. Our mission, our creed, and our code is this: to make all things more approachable and accessible to everyone. We want you to find a universe that you'll fall in love with. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different. We have a special guest host, who is the master of the Na'vi tongue. Is that what you would say? How would you describe yourself, Seth?
A all-around Avatar fan, fluent Na'vi language speaker, and community administrator for one of the largest Avatar fan groups on the internet.
One second, make sure this is actually recording. Oh, I just had my thing in a weird place. I'll remove that later. So I've got so many questions, and I'm so excited that you're here. Like, I'm genuinely so excited because I also got to see it's not a remaster, but they did up it to 4K high res something for the re-release of Avatar, which released in 2009. And you've probably answered this question a million times, but where did your relationship start with Avatar? Like, what got you to the theater?
Yeah, so I was a freshman in high school, 14, back when Avatar came out in 2009. And, there's a lot of people who have grown up with Avatar since that never saw it in theaters. So it can't be understated that back in 2009, Avatar was like such an unexpected experience that that was kind of the thing that captivated me originally, was just how immersive the film was. It's the first time I genuinely remember going to the theaters and then feeling like I had spent, almost 3 hours not on planet Earth, but actually kind of exploring this alien landscape. And the rest is history. I ended up seeing Avatar 8 times in theaters on its original theatrical run. 3 of those were in 3D, and the other 5 were in standard definition. And the kind of lifelong commitment to that franchise and its associated interests started there.
And you say 8 in theaters, and like now I've kind of recontextualized Avatar in my head. Like, people have watched Star Wars almost every day. Like, it's your movie. Like, you want to see it as many times as you can. Like, it's such an exciting experience, especially on the big screen. Now, if you had to give like a back of the box blurb about what the film Avatar is about, what would you say?
The broad strokes. A disgruntled Marine is transported to an alien planet where he is given the opportunity to assume control of a avatar, a body that is able to be remotely piloted by human pilots. And through this avatar, he gets to experience and learn about a new world and a new culture, ultimately becoming the defender of the moon's indigenous population, and turning against his human his human counterparts.
Yeah.
Everybody knows Avatar. It's so weird to describe it that way, right? So it's like,
and I think the biggest point of this episode is like, because I don't think it's gotten a bad rap, but there's so many people who are so negative about the entire film, and I don't think it's never merited that. It was. I don't think there's 13 years later. Is it? Yeah. There's nothing that looks as good as Avatar does, across the board.
Especially with the latest media, like just looking at what's on the market right now, like we've almost started to see a degradation in the overall quality of film and TV as things are getting more rushed or are not given enough time to kind of incubate or come to their full realization. And so, yeah, that's like, even taking into account the fact that what we just watched was a 4K upscale remaster. If you go back and you watch the original film, even the original film's effects largely stand the test of time.
How retouched was this one? Like, how much did they because I know there was some very weird frame rate stuff in this current one, for me at least. But like, how much did they retouch all of it?
There's a lot of debate in the community right now about whether or not it was a full re-render or just a 4K upscale. The jury is out until we get an official word from Cameron or the studio on the extent of the touch-ups. But on top of the upscale, there was a change to the color grading. The remaster was noticeably brighter than the original theatrical release. And as you mentioned, the new dynamic HDR introduced some 48 frames per second sequences into the film, which is something that Cameron's been toying with for the sequel, that I think he was really interested to kind of show off and premiere by utilizing it in the remaster.
That's what I've heard. I've heard that the next one's going to have a lot more of it. It felt too real at some points. And I was like, holy shit, what am I watching? All right, so I've got so many questions for you. James Cameron. I do want to talk about James Cameron first.
Let's go.
What is first, you're one of my guests. I've messed up. You didn't know I'm kind of a hard-hitting journalist. All of my guests get asked a very hard question.
All right, let's go.
What's your favorite sandwich?
My favorite sandwich? Firehouse's Italian sub.
Okay, you have a specific brand too.
I do. Right. Yeah.
Like that.
If I had to point to a sandwich that is my comfort sandwich, it's Firehouse's Italian sub.
Love it. All right, James Cameron. What is your favorite James Cameron movie that isn't Avatar? Because I've wanted to know this since I saw the How To with John Wilson. You were made famous by that episode, which is a beautiful look at a community that people didn't get to see before. So that's why you and I have linked, because I really did love that. But back to Cameron. What is your movie other than this?
Yeah. So I actually completed a watch through of all of Cameron's films last year for the first time. So that included first time viewings on Terminator 2 and Aliens. As well as
Terminator 2?
Yep.
Would you watch The Abyss on a beta track? Like, how did you get the hands on that?
It was on Amazon Prime. It was on Prime Video.
Really?
So yeah, it was for a period. I don't know if it's still available there for Prime subscribers. He has
not released a physical copy of that.
Yeah.
Since VHS, I think, or maybe DVD.
Yeah. It's incredibly hard to find. I guess I got lucky. I didn't realize how lucky I got to actually be able to see that movie now. But picking out a favorite of Cameron's films, it definitely is The Abyss. I was blown away by the production on The Abyss, and considering that it's one of Cameron's earliest films, it's the textbook example of his model of storytelling and filmmaking. And, I've kind of followed that through line now through Terminator 2, and Aliens, just seeing how he sets up these bombastic finales. And once they start, it's all gas, no brakes until you get that final closing resolution. And I think that kind of thriller aspect of his action flicks is one of the big draws to people. That you're going for a ride, and a James Cameron ride is almost incomparable to anything else. But yeah, The Abyss is definitely the one that stood out to me. Is wow, this is a film that I feel like people do not talk about enough. Yeah,
it's got such interesting world building, especially with the what do they call them? The rebreather thing. They breathe in the liquid. It's such an interesting concept. And James Cameron knows how to world build. Clearly. that we're having this
Clearly.
conversation. His worlds are so vast and like such an interesting view on everything. Other than Titanic, which is kind of our world. That's our canon, technically.
Yeah.
But now, where did Avatar come from? Like, from what you understand, like, where did this idea like come about for him?
I mean, if you're going by the stories, like he had originally conceptualized the idea from Avatar based on a dream. That's where a lot of his concepts come from. Obviously, you got the famous Terminator concept that came from his dream journal, and Avatar was similarly visualized. He wrote the script for it actually as early as '94, which is the year I was born, which is wild to consider. And then set on the idea until he felt like the visual effects market in filmmaking was able to fully realize this concept. Yeah. He's famous for saying that the defining moment when he realized the technology and motion capture had advanced to the point where he felt like he could start work on the idea was seeing Andy Serkis's Gollum in the Lord of the Rings films. And from there, he began, the pre-production work on Avatar.
And so I know he's talked about it many times, but he's got, is it up to the 5th sequel prepped? Like he's ready to go on that far out?
My understanding is they have all 4 sequels written. So a total of 5 films. And films 2 and 3 have wrapped production at this point, or 3 is very, very close to wrapping production. Film 4 has had the opening scenes shot because apparently there's an age up that's going to happen at some point in that film, and so they shot they shot scenes with the child actors that they kind of needed to in a timely fashion, but. For now, 4 and 5 are still kind of on the chopping block, depending on how 2 and 3 perform at the box office.
Holy shit. That is the long game. And he hasn't done anything between Avatar and now, really, has he?
Documentaries, if you count documentaries.
Yeah. Wow, that's such when he's at the box office, he wins. Like, it's like, you can't even hold candles to the movies he's done. So it's so interesting that like this has been his movie for so long. Now, I want to talk about the Na'vi people. Well, first, what do you think are some of the major themes of the series that really draw people in? Before we get into the people.
Avatar is so broadly accessible that I feel like you could ask almost anybody who likes the film that question, and you would probably get a different answer. Because I mean, you have the immediate themes of cross-culturalism, learning about a new culture and learning how to kind of see the world from that culture's eyes. You have the big anti-capitalist and anti-colonial narratives at the high end of the film. You also have the environmental message that's in the film. There's the bare bones good versus evil conflict. Like, for me, what initially drew me into the film was it started to put into words ideas that I hadn't yet formed, because like I said, freshman in high school, about the world and our place in it, and our relationship to the environment, and as those ideas kind of further formed and solidified, obviously Avatar became this important touchstone film to me, by virtue of being one of the only films that I can point to that so unashamedly says, we have something worth protecting here now that we are letting go to waste. And I think that can't be stated enough.
I think something in the movie that really caught me off guard as an adult, because I saw it in theaters when I was young, and I don't know what the word, I didn't lack empathy, but like I just didn't embrace empathy. Now that I'm an adult and I'm like watching this movie, I'm like, oh, I see these themes. Everything is there. There is a line that Jake says, I think he says it when he comes back into the body, about how all the green is dead. Like all of our green, they killed all of it on Earth.
Yeah.
And like it hurt. Like it was so much more impactful now that I've seen it and all the stuff that's happened since this movie came out. And it's just like listening to that, and it's not like something that is like explored at all, other than like you understand why the Earth is there. Is the military company from the United States, or is it just a Earth thing?
It's never explicitly said that they're from the U.S. We don't know the actual social political climate of Earth, and during the events of Avatar, but they are referred to as Marines, which is obviously pretty heavily U.S. coded. And there is a very, I would say it's a subtle detail, but some people have said it's actually not subtle at all. In the immediate opening sequence, when Stephen Lang's Quaritch is giving his safety briefing, directly behind him is an unmistakable American flag in the silhouette of the shuttered blinds, and there's actually an actual 50 in the top left corner to form the American flag. So the even if it's not explicitly said in the film, like the context is there to say,
Yeah.
Come on, we can be doing better.
And James, like you see, I've seen his themes. Terminator 2, the bad guy is a cop, so like that this man is like, hey, like there's things that need to be done about different people. But Stephen Lang, really great performance.
Oh, fantastic performance!
Especially like the scene that he gives about his scars. I was just like not prepared for that. Like I was like. He's like, no, I want them to be there. I could get this fixed. Like, this could be removed, but this is a reminder.
Yeah.
He's just so... he's just, like, very dead set that these are the enemies, when that's not how it is at all.
So, Dan, how much do you know about the sequel up to this point?
Nothing. Whatever you want to tell me. I am so excited for this movie now, because... I just want to watch. I just want it in my eyes for like 3 hours.
So, I mean, for those who've been following the news, which apparently is not a lot of people, Empire Magazine ran the first looks at Avatar 2 back in the summer. And included in those first looks is the detail that Lang is obviously reprising his role as Miles Quaritch in the sequel. And it's super interesting because obviously the character took 2 arrows to the chest at the end of the first film. So spoilers for anybody who somehow
like
has
missiles.
not seen
They're
Avatar.
Not just arrows. That's like
she
fired a whole tree trunk into that hand.
Yeah, 2 small trees through his chest. So the big question is, how is he returning? Well, he's returning in the form of what Cameron is calling a recombinant, which is a avatar that is grown and then permanently implanted with the memories and personality of a human. So very much in the way that Jake kind of crossed over at the end of the first film from his human body to his not-feed body permanently, Quaritch is going to find himself in that exact same situation in the events of this film. And that right there tells me everything that I need to know about the plot of this sequel in relation to Cameron's other sequels. Cameron is a gifted sequel storyteller because he understands how to take something that is familiar from his first outing into whatever franchise and then completely turn it on its head and give you the other side, the red herring cop in Terminator 2. You take the way that he scaled aliens from Alien. So to take the villain of Avatar, who is one of the best aspects of the film, and put him into his literal waking nightmare, is, I think, both an inspired and a compelling story choice for the sequel. A little speechless there, yeah.
I cannot believe that. I didn't know Stephen Lang's going to be in. I like villains a lot. I don't like villains in the way that like I ever think that he's right. I just think he plays a really good villain, and he's going to be in an Avatar body.
Yep.
They're putting that psychopath in a blue body.
They are.
Oh God, I'm so pumped because I saw the trailers. There was like people who wore, they were in like plain clothes.
Yeah. So it's like, are they avatars? You know, what's the deal there? But he is back. He is blue, and he's a lot more pissed off.
Do we know? Like, is that the plot? Is he the plot?
So high strokes. If I'm allowed to speculate a little bit,
go ahead.
We know the general plot summary. The general plot summary on Avatar 2 is that obviously the RDA has returned, and they've returned in force, and they are actively hunting the Sully family. Jake and Neytiri decide that the best way to protect their family, as well as the Omaticaya tribe, is to leave them. And so they kind of go on this self-imposed exile and find themselves among the Metcaina reef people. From there, it's probably going to be saying, you know, for following the model of the first film, it's probably going to be a lot of learning about the Metcaina culture and this different Na'vi tribe. The Na'vi tribe is, you know, they live on the coast, and so they have different evolutionary traits that, you know, make them stand out from the Na'vi that we kind of have grown to be accustomed to in the first film. They're free divers.
Because so something else real quick, the re-release, there were different post-credit scenes. Yeah. Which one did you get when you saw it?
There are 3 in rotation, and the one that I got to see last night was the swimming scene that was first revealed at D23 earlier this fall.
With the whales? Or the whale?
No, not with the whale. So there's the 3 that are in rotation right now are that one, which is Loak and the Tulkun. And then there's one with some of the Metcaina kids and the Sully kids just swimming through the reef. And then there's one where Cliff Curtis's character, Tonawari, is telling some of the Sully kids about their history and kind of chastising one of them for something that's taboo in their culture. Which one did you end up seeing?
I saw the one where he takes the spear out of the whale.
Okay, yeah. Honestly, I'm quite jealous I didn't actually get to see that one because from what I have heard, that one more than anything sells the realism aspect of Avatar 2. Like, don't get me wrong, the underwater sequence was absolutely stunning, but because it was more alien, we know what reefs look like, but a Pandora reef is a little bit different. And the entire sequence is underwater. You don't really have a frame of reference for what those things are supposed to look like, you know? Mm-hmm. But the scene with the whale, with Loak and the Tulkun, you get the top of the water, you get the texture on the whale, and you kind of have a reference for what those things are supposed to look like. And pretty much everybody I have read has seen that scene is absolutely blown away by the quality jump in the CG for the sequel.
Now, you haven't seen all 3 scenes?
I have not.
You don't get any special perks because of who you are?
Not to that regard. Our actual connection to the franchise is very loose. I am very grateful to have a good working relationship with certain people at Lightstorm, and obviously the Professor Paul Frommer, the guy who created the Nazi language. But our partnership as of this time is very much just a mutual acknowledgement. And they are gracious enough to have us listed on their community page on the Avatar website. But for the time being, everything is still very much, especially in the marketing phase, is in Disney's hands. And unfortunately, I don't know anybody at Disney.
Yeah, we'll talk afterwards. So, shit, I thought you were on like a first name. Like you're texting Jamie at like midnight. Like, what's up? What are you doing, Cameron? How's 3 going?
I wish.
I just assumed you and him were like hanging out, drinking beers, wrestling in the front yard.
No, but it is a bucket list thing to have an elevator conversation with James Cameron. So Jimmy, if you're listening, let's meet up sometime.
Yeah, please don't listen to anything else we've ever done. It was wild to me to find out that there was 3 different scenes, especially because that is such an interesting tactic. Now, the Disney thing. Will there be a Disney banner at the beginning? Because there was only 20th century this time.
Yeah.
With weird frame rate. But
so
it's not a Disney movie, is it?
Big debate on that. We don't know how the rights transfer went down. Obviously, Disney bought Fox, but the rumor is that Cameron still holds the franchise rights, and that Disney only has distribution rights. So Disney is handling the marketing and distribution of the film. But in terms of any IP decisions, that ball is still solidly in Cameron's fist. And so I expect you'll see the 20th Century logo before the film, but I don't think you're going to see the Disney title scroll. And based on the description of some of the scenes that were shown at D23 that haven't been shown in the post-credits teases for the Avatar remaster, I don't think this is a Disney film either, just to be quite honest.
Good.
There is a very visceral description of a scene that takes place in the Pandoran forest at night where it sounds like Jake and Neytiri are having to rescue some of their kids. And at least one of the bad guys takes an arrow through an eye socket and another one takes an axe to the skull. So
hell yeah. I forgot how
definitely still
this
Cameron's fare.
I forgot how violent this movie was. That last battle fucking ripped.
Yeah.
Like I keep calling them pterodactyls. They're not pterodactyls.
They are Ikran or Banshees.
Banshee, that's right, Banshees. Yeah. Like when they all came down, were like tossing shit. I was just like, I was sitting in my theater going, "Holy shit, that's so cool!" Out loud to myself, like I'm having the time of my life. Like, just love, like, oh god, you didn't come here for this, but like when Jake jumps on top of the one with the bombs in it, he's like jumping over the barrier and like firing the gun. I was like, this is the sickest shit I've ever seen. Like, I love this movie.
And again, it just goes to show how Cameron understands how to really write an action sequence that's going to keep you engaged the entire time.
Yeah. It's also something one of my buddies pointed out. It's like the last movie that was super popular where characters smoke. Like, if that has gone away in so much media, and that's why I was wondering, like, well, she's not around to smoke anymore, but, like, I was like, is Disney going to let that kind of stuff go in this one? But I guess they don't. James seems like you're not going to fuck with my idea or I'm walking. Like, he's not like a
compromiser?
Yeah.
He's definitely not a compromiser. Interesting that you point that out because, yes, you have obviously Sigourney Weaver's character who smokes in the film. A couple of fun bits of trivia about that. The first is that there is a narrative purpose for that, which is to show that Weaver's character, who is this highly educated botanist, has kind of started to not care about her human body's health. During the events of the film, she's kind of gotten to the point where she is like Jake. She understands Jake. He has kind of stepped into this other world, and now that world feels more like the real life than her actual, her actual form. So she smokes as a way to let the audience kind of know, if only subconsciously, like she doesn't care about her health, because that's not the body that she cares about. And in contrast, like her avatar is very fit, and you don't ever see her smoke in that form. So it's a habit that is exclusive to her human body. But the second bit of trivia, and this one's almost more fascinating to me, is that the smoke on that cigarette is CGI. Weaver was not actually smoking on the set. She was holding an unlit cigarette for all of those scenes, and the smoke was added in post-production.
How much do you think that cost?
To do just that, somebody's salary for a couple months, that could have cost, that's $10,000 to $15,000. You don't know.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
That's why there is probably so much like fun stuff that I have no idea about, because again, I haven't been close to the franchise as other people have been. But with the design of the world, like the looks of Pandora and the creatures and the people, how much of that is James? Like, is there an artist that he worked with to depict all of that, or is he like hobbling that stuff down?
So a lot of it is based on his original concepts. If you look, if you Google, James Cameron Avatar concepts, the Navi people are pretty close to his original concepts. The Thanator, the big Pandoran, almost jaguar that chases Jake at the beginning of the film, is one of his original concepts. But he did also work with legendary creature designer Wayne Barlow for a lot of the designs on the Pandoran fauna. So Barlow's influence is there. A lot of the human design work was done in conjunction with a guy by the name of Ty Ruben Ellingson, who I've had the pleasure of speaking with. And he kind of described that process of kind of handing things back and forth to Cameron as Cameron's making suggestions and asking questions and trying to really ground the designs in both realism and scale. So it sounds to me like Cameron is very much still the perfectionist that he has the reputation of being, but he's gotten better at communicating his vision to the team and kind of inspiring his crew to see the same vision as him.
Interesting. And looking this up, I didn't know James Cameron drew. I guess I never thought about it. Holy, he's a really good artist.
Yep, I haven't read it, but he actually just put out a book, Tech Noir, which is kind of a little bit biography, a little bit art journal. So there's a lot of original artworks in there.
Wait, did he do the art from Titanic?
Yes, he did. I was literally just about to say that. The famous "Paint Me Like One of Your French Girls" is Cameron's work.
Did he design in Aliens the mech suit? I was doing the robot.
Oh yeah, the loader.
The loader.
I don't know about that one. I'm less familiar with the Alien franchise.
I'm looking at the art. It looks like it may be him, but you can see that influence on the mechs in Avatar. Those giant.
Yep.
I love that the mechs, like, they're very they're like big and they have big guns and stuff, but the funniest thing about it, and you may know more than I do, is that those fucking things have knives.
Yeah, that's a pretty big meme.
Strapped, and he whips it out.
Yeah.
Awesome. I cheered when I saw it, but wild.
Yeah. As someone who is probably way too tied into the conversation around Avatar online, like, it's probably once a day I see somebody say something like, man, I thought Avatar was great until I saw that mech pull that fucking knife out.
So cool. Wait, do people like what? All right. Well, I got you here now. What is like the big, what is the community's big thing? Like, what is the thing that is debated the most? And I don't want to get controversial for you, but like, what are the arguments you see within the community?
Within the community?
Yeah.
There's not a lot of arguments that go on within the community. If you're saying like within the group of Avatar fans that
like what are the hot takes?
The hot takes. The hot takes, honestly, and I'm saying this because it's one of my hot takes, is that the film, while obviously impressive and unparalleled in a lot of ways, is not the greatest film of all time. Like there is a lot that you can criticize about Avatar, and there's some things that you rightfully should criticize about Avatar. But that doesn't necessarily mean that people can't enjoy the film for what it is, or that it can't be people's favorite film. And I think that's one of the things that frustrates me the most about watching a lot of the very online dialogue about Avatar is like, we're in this day and age where everybody gets to share their opinion, and somewhere along the line, people started feeling like it was okay for them to unwarrantedly share their opinion with others. So there's a difference between just kind of putting your opinion out into this ether that we call the internet. And there's another thing entirely, if you're going to go, look for people to actively say, why the hell do you like this thing? It's awful. I hate it. We've seen it with Star Wars. We've seen it with certain Marvel properties. Like it's just this trend of, I didn't like it, so why do you? Or why should you?
It's like a rain on everybody's parade type mentality.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's really kind of where I come at the film from, is like, yeah, it has issues, but do those issues overall detract from my enjoyment of it and my connection to it? And the answer for me, obviously, is a resounding no.
I was like that for a long time. I admit, like I have worked back and become, as I said earlier, a much more empathetic person. Like, why do I care what other people like? Like, if it brings them joy, that's the entire point of our show. Like, I want to help people find stuff they love, and like, even if it's not my thing, then it's not my thing. Let somebody else have their cake. But I had something brewing in my head about Avatar. What was it?
Well, while you're thinking about it, I'll say, like, that was what drew me to the idea of coming on your podcast and talking about Avatar, is this idea that everything can be something for somebody. Like, it's about making things more accessible instead of less accessible. And I think that there is a nobility to that premise as a platform. So, yeah,
I'm glad you're here. Like, and you see it online, like all the time. People are like, "Oh, Avatar." This is like, okay, if you don't like it, then just shut the fuck up. Like, there's so many people who are enjoying this, and like that's why I think from the how to, I watch it and I was like, there are so many communities out there that I don't know because I'm not a part. Like, it's not something that appeals to me as much. Now, after watching Avatar, fucking rules. There's fighting. There's nipples. It's great. I'm gonna make you talk about the nipples because I got a lot of questions on that. I assume not a lot of people ask you those questions.
Definitely be the first time I've been interrogated about the nipples now.
Well, welcome to Gatecrashers. But it was such an interesting thing to see people find their community and find people who they care about so much, about something they love, and that's what this show has always been. So it's inspiring to see that. Now, has the community grown since all of that?
Absolutely. We, as expected, when we weren't exactly sure if we were going to get name dropped or if there was going to be anything like specifically pointing people to us, when we wrapped, filming on that day. But after we saw the episode and, saw how directly they were willing to expose us, we had a number of people come. It was a mix of people who were super curious, like, who are these people that we just spent 20, 30 minutes with? Is this possibly a real thing? To people who are like, oh my God, I have finally found my people. Like, I had no idea that you guys existed, and I'm so grateful to have found this community. And that response was absolutely overwhelming to us, because we kind of went into it just looking at it as, this is going to be a really fun experience. They're flying us to New York, and we get to talk about Avatar together and just hang out with with other friends, like people that I met people for the first time that afternoon that I had only spoken to online before that point, but people who are lifelong friends. So even if that was all we got out of it, like that was enough for all of us to come together and get the opportunity to see each other. So yeah, the response to how to, and obviously that being what connected us, was overwhelmingly gratifying in a way that I don't think any of us were anticipating it being. And people still talk about the episode. Like I said, I'm probably way too tapped into the conversation online around Avatar in particular. But one of the benefits of Twitter is being able to watch conversational trends. And of course, I have a column that kind of gathers people's takes about the show. And even today, there are like 9, 10, 11 people talking about how with Avatar kind of back in the cultural spotlight because of the remaster, like the people that they're remembering is our community and the way that we touched them. And that it's incredibly special. I can't say it enough, like how special that is.
It makes me happy that it's a you got a positive experience out of that instead of like troll. Like you have to deal with trolls. Like there's no matter what, like you're going to get that with publicity like that, but having a positive experience come from a big being on HBO, like it's a really nice thing.
When Clark Filio reached out, who's the producer, or one of the producers, I should say, I was very, very skeptical. Obviously, Avatar has had its time in the spotlight as being incredibly easy to bash, and people who like Avatar haven't had a lot of people around to defend that that stance. Like the last 10 years, the number of people who have openly like talked about Avatar, enjoyed Avatar, kind of been Avatar people on the internet is incredibly slim. And so when he reached out and was like, hey, we found you guys, we're super excited to see if we can have you guys come join us. I went with my wife and I watched a couple of episodes of the first season, and I kind of got the vibe for how the show goes. And, I'm human, so I'm not perfectly capable of watching something without bias or judgment. And so, watching some of the subjects in the first season, it's like some of these people are very strange. And I had the recognition that there are going to be people out there that think the exact same thing about us. Mm-hmm. But then we kind of got into the first season a little bit more and started watching how he was really, even in the strangeness, he was really pulling out the human aspect of all of his subjects and all of the I hesitate to say plots, but the plots of his episodes, that it gave us the confidence to say, like, yes, we will go and we will be a part of this. And as long as we are true to who we are, I think that will come through as clearly as it can be. I never had any concerns about being misrepresented by Wilson and his crew, which is not something that I feel like I could say about just any production or any documentary crew.
He seems like a weird man, but he never seems like he's punching down on his like subjects. It seems like he's just like just who these people are from what I've taken from the show.
Yeah.
And I think that's important because people are weird. Like, it's just like, and a lot of the time, the weird people, they get made fun of rather than like you getting to see that like you never know what is going to connect people and bring other people joy. Like, it's you can't figure it out because sometimes it's a movie from 2009 that outsold. Is it still the highest grossing film of all time?
It is again. We could talk about that, but for now, yes, it is back on top of the box office.
What untopped it?
Avengers Endgame.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, after it came very, very close, and then they released the cut that had the unfinished Hulk scene and some other stuff, and it pushed it over. And then
listen, you don't have to say anything in this part, but I will tell you this. People give Avatar shit for not having the most sturdy story. Endgame was just 2 hours of cameos and like, oh, this is it. It was a Super Bowl commercial. Then I never have to watch it again. That's my personal feelings. I'll never watch that film again. I would go see Avatar in theaters again this weekend. Like, I was so like everything was so original and like it was an alien world, like completely alien.
Yeah. We talk a lot about Avatar, obviously, and we've kind of come down to the conclusion, like, for the people that like Avatar, they don't necessarily zero in on the plot as something that, like, oh my God, the plot is amazing. Like, that's the reason why I like Avatar. And you don't really zero in on any of the characters too, because the characters are typically archetypes of their role. Jake is a very bland character because he's the audience proxy. Quaritch is a very caricaturized villain because, that's what the story needs. The main character of Avatar is Pandora and this world that Cameron created. And so the people who are both, I guess, inclined to or willing to let themselves go and let all of these very online criticisms of plot and style and dialogue and just experience this world, this picture into an alien landscape that Cameron created are the people that enjoy Avatar. Because that is what the first film is designed to be. Will the sequels be any better in terms of plot and story and connecting? I mean, the universal theme that Cameron is going for is family, and you don't get a more universal theme than that. Yeah. There's so much that you can unpack from the concept of family alone that, you could spend an entire lifetime delving into the relationships between parents and kids, between kids and kids, between families and other families. Like, there's just so much that you can dig into with that concept that we'll see if it can elevate the level of the plot in the second film. But I will say for myself, as long as we get more Pandora, I'm going to be seated in theaters. It doesn't matter.
I was not ready for the Pandora to be the moon of the planet. It's a moon, right?
Pandora it is, yep.
I was, all recollection, it was the big planet. And I was like, wait, this is the little one?
Yeah.
What's on the big one?
The big one is Polyphemus.
Is there, well, okay. Where the shit is all of the lore for Avatar? Are there like, is all this stuff in art books? Like, is this in comics? Is this in like physical novels?
It is in a couple of very, very obscure websites. Pandorapedia is the one that comes to mind. And then, of course, we've poured over every single bit of media release to kind of flesh out the lore as much as we can. So, and then, you get the like old movie tie-in novels, like the Avatar, the Activist Survival Guide that gave a lot of information. A kind of reissued version of that was this year's DK's big art visual books. Exploration, I think, or something to that effect. Yeah.
They have those for Star Wars that usually give a lot of stuff.
Yep. So yeah, that's where all the lore is. It's definitely not in the film, and I don't think it needs to be in the film because that's not the type of audience that Cameron is trying to attract.
Oh God! I'm thinking about the fight scenes again. Now that you told me Lang's gonna be back and you get to see a dude brained with an arrow, so pumped.
Yeah, it's gotta be something, that's for sure.
Yeah, everybody's like, "Oh, I love the community and stuff like that." I'm like, "No, I want to see those arrows destroy
Give me the
violence." People. God, the arrows are huge because they're like, how tall is an average Na'vi?
8. No, it's between 9 and 10 feet.
That's big. That's a big arrow.
Pretty damn big.
Okay, so I do want to talk about the language because being that there isn't all of these books and things for you to pull from, how did the development of actually understanding, writing, speaking, how did you form that?
I am lucky enough to ride on the coattails of the wonderful linguists and hobbyists who worked to do a lot of the reverse engineering in the old days. We lovingly refer to as the time of the first songs, or the first posts rather. It all happened on internet forums, and people kind of started coming together to dissect the spoken lines from the film. And it wasn't long before that effort caught the attention of USC professor Paul Frommer, who is the guy who created the language for the film. Paul was very enthusiastic about the community's efforts and was eager to help them kind of fill in the gaps on what they hadn't been able to reverse engineer up to that point. And from there, the kind of resources and methods for learning the Na'vi language really started to develop themselves and become concrete. And now, 13 years later, we have excellently developed resources, dictionaries. We still, as a community, work with Professor Frommer to have the lexicon expanded. If we, in the course of our use of the language, come across a concept that we don't have or that we feel like needs translation, then we will either submit word suggestions, or we will kind of ask him for his thoughts on the matter.
Is he still doing the language for the films?
He is, yes.
Does he have a definite guide? Like, does he have like a secret locked up book, like where this all is?
I am sure he seems meticulous enough to have a binder somewhere that has every piece of the information that he has written down. But there's nothing that's available to us publicly. The language community maintains the grammar corpus, every rule that we know of so far, and its relation to how the language is used. All of that obviously at some point has come directly from Frommer, but it was never never a one big dump of, here is everything. And there's probably a good reason for that, in that, he's still under contract. He still has non-disclosure agreements that are standing in production in regards to the production of the sequels. So dumping all of that information, like, you would have to go through and make sure that you're weeding out anything that's going to be a potential breach of contract.
He's got like 24 films to make for this by the time James is done with him.
Right. So we've gone from, a little over 100, 150 words to almost 3,000 as of our conversation right now.
So you and I spoke a little bit. It's not a one-to-one. I'm not a linguist. Is it a grammatical translation? Like, is there words that mean like, if I said dog in English, is there a word that would mean dog in Na'vi? Is the language Na'vi, or is the language is what's it? Is it just Na'vi? The language?
Yeah. So Na'vi refers to both the language and the people. Okay. And as for your question about dog, obviously there are no dogs on Pandora, but we use the closest possible approximation, which are the viper wolves from the film that hunt Jake down on the first night. Yeah, the little guys. So the Na'vi word for those are nantang, And so our word for dog is basically a small nuntang, which is nuntang siep.
Damn. So it is like it's in reference to their world, reference to our world. Like it's like they don't have cars, so there's other words for similar things that exist in their world that don't exist on Earth. Right.
So the big high-level grammatical term for that is called circumlocution. Circumlocution is the practice of being able to use words or phrases or concepts that are familiar enough or close enough to the idea to ultimately get your point across. And at this point, there is very little that we could want to talk about that we can't find a way to describe using the lexicon that we have.
How fluent are you in it as just like in an everyday sense?
We say that nobody is truly fluent because we don't have any native speakers. So there's no even the actors that learned the language for the films are not native speakers and honestly could still use some work in their pronunciation. So everybody who is a competent speaker of the language would refer to themselves as near fluent, and that's where I would fall. If I am highly in practice, I can have a spoken conversation at length in the Nafi language. I frequently will play games like Phasmophobia or Minecraft, having conversations with other friends exclusively using the language.
That is very cool. Like it's just a language, and I think it's very interesting to like you're just like jumping on like a Phasmophobia and you're running from the ghosts and you're like screaming in Navi.
Yeah. One of these days I'll have to live stream that on Twitch, but
yeah, I would very much like to watch that.
Yeah.
So okay, well, if I have to ask, what would be the closest translation you could do for Gatecrasher?
For Gatecrasher, gate is going to be a difficult concept because obviously the Nutfeet don't have any kind of doors. Yeah. They don't really do like enclosures. It's very, very open, very free form. I'm not even sure we have a word for wall now that I am thinking about it. Let me see. I'm going to use one of our dictionaries here real quick.
And the follow-up to that is some swear words.
Yeah, and we definitely have swear words.
Yeah, I assume everyone, that's their... You've heard how I speak. I'm just a straight New Jersey piece of trash, so I need a couple of Navi swear words to work into my vernacular. But it's such an... like, with things like these games that are coming out, who do they consult? Do they consult Frommer?
Yes. So usually Frommer is consulted for things. There have been a couple of things that have actually slipped through that he has said, actually, no, I wasn't consulted on that. Let me have some conversations and we'll figure out what we're going to do about that. Weird piece of trivia. There was some stuff that was originally in the world of Pandora, the Disney park expansion. Yep. That when we first got the word of the terms or the ways that they were trying to use the language, that we kind of all collectively raised our eyebrows and then shot an email over to Paul to say like, hey, like, is this a thing? Is this an actual thing? And very quickly he was like, nope, let me go talk to them about that. But yeah, so I'm kind of falling here. We do have the idea of a wall. So obviously it's not a perfect translation for the idea of gate or door. That's emyo. And then
emyo, how do you spell that?
So it's there are what are called ejective consonants in the Nafi language.
You might just have to type that to me at some point.
I will. Don't worry. They are popped consonants. So think like beatboxing. There's three. There's the ah, there's ah, and there's ah. And
it's like a
yeah, you got it. First try.
damn. That is so like that is such a cool damn. I coming from this movie and like the thing I want to learn most is like I just want to know more about the world, especially knowing that towards the end you see is it 5 other tribes on planet?
You only get a glimpse of the other 2. There's way more than that. I think he says he's got 12 clans during the final conflict.
So
we
the water
see
ones. Do you see them for like a minute?
No, we don't see the water ones in the first film. We see the Econ people that live on the coast, the coastal cliffs, and then we see the plains dwellers that live and are kind of the horse people.
The horse people.
But that's all we get. So Emyo is the word for wall, and then to break, I'd probably use saung, which is more to shatter than just the idea of like breaking something, snapping something. And then we kind of have to specialize this. So the way that we do that for a verb to make it like a profession or a practice is to add the suffix "yu." So saung yu would be a crasher or a breaker or a shatterer. So we would say "Emyo saung yu." So just wall smasher, pretty much.
Damn. Wow, you did that very quickly too. Damn, that was impressive.
Yeah, that's not vocab that I would use on a regular basis. So I definitely had to look that up. But
yeah.
There you go. That's the idea, and that's kind of circumlocution in practice.
Huh. It's so interesting to like. That's what not education. That's like. What is it? What would you describe that? It's art. Like it's literal language. That is so interesting.
Yep.
Damn.
And that's to kind of like wrap that idea, like one of the major benefits to learning a fictional language, any language, but a fictional language too, is the way that it kind of opens your perception of how to think about things and how to form your words and your thoughts. Nafi is what's called a limited free word order language. So there's a lot of flexibility to the sentence structure and the order of the words, whereas English is a very linear language. And so that alone forces you to kind of start reading in a little bit more of a comprehensive 3-dimensional way than just I'm looking and I know that the first word of a sentence is going to be the subject, and the next word's going to be the verb, and the next word's going to be the object, and so on and so forth down the line. And
it kind of forces you to slow down and actually think about language and other people. Like you have to think about, like not everyone has the same patterns because they've learned different ways and.
Yep. And, because the film is so broadly accessible in our world, the people who learn the language, you're brushing shoulders with a lot of different cultures. Our largest demographics are obviously from the US, but outside of that, Germany has a pretty sizable population of Nafi learners. There were a bunch from the Czech Republic back in the heyday, France, Canada, South America. It's just kind of from all over the place. So you get the kind of melting pot of cultures around learning the language. And by virtue of that association, you start to experience a lot of different cultures as well.
Damn. It's all so interesting to me as like someone who's coming from the outside. Damn, I should become the you of Minions. Like I should like really get into the Minions language and
Minionese, yeah,
Minionese.
Minionese is what you would call a pigden. It is a mishmash of a lot of different languages, which is why you hear some familiar terms in there. I
only know a little bit of Minion. I know a little bit of Ewok too, but not enough to speak it fluently.
Yeah.
All right, so we've talked about the. Oh wait. How do I say fuck in Navi? Do they have fuck?
Closest equivalent would be fuck that, which is asik.
Basic?
It's the adjective P, so pasik.
Pasik?
Close. So
how hard am I blowing out? Like
it's a pop, so and then that
it transfers into the vowel sound. It's almost 2 syllables if you kind of understand how syllable breaks work, but it's technically 1 syllable. So it's ase.
All right, I'll have to work on it.
Yeah,
I'll have to work on that. I'll have this recording to practice.
That's fuck that in the Navi language.
I needed that one. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you, we've mentioned it a couple times throughout this interview or this episode, whatever we're doing. I don't know if you've gotten to talk about this, if there's any reason for it, but everyone has nipples in Avatar. They're all naked.
Yeah.
How did that get a PG-13 rating? Is it
your guess is as good as mine, my man?
Yeah, just because like it's just how people are. I don't know why I was so hyper focused on that. I was just like, what was the rate? Like, what was the conversation James had with them? So,
correct me if I'm wrong, but did you find that taking a back seat? Like, or initially, yes, you're introduced to the Na'vi, and they are very indigenous. They are very like, it's alien. It's a culture shock. Like, you almost experience the same kind of culture shock that Jake is experiencing. They're barely clothed, whatever. But then as the film goes on, and again, as you start to kind of see the culture through Jake's eyes, you start to kind of fade into that culture to where you stop noticing that aspect.
What I noticed is they started speaking English more. And I guess that's for audiences, but I honestly was like, oh, I wish they spoke more Na'vi. Like, I was like, it's kind of weird that they're like changing the way they're talking. I mean, I guess it's a white guy directing the white savior type movie. Like, can't sugarcoat that. So they're coming there to like stop all this stuff, but they're also the problem. The colonialism thing. But they just started speaking English more, and I was like, I feel like I wanted to hear more Na'vi. And I feel like in the next one it's going to be even more because like he's been there for so long.
Yeah, I am hoping that they don't hand wave that. I am hoping that it is a translation convention, that it's established pretty early on in the film. Like, hey, even though you're hearing English right now, they're speaking and Na'vi. Like Prey did it really well. Yeah. Recently, where you right at the beginning you get the full on Comanche, and then it kind of fades into English as you naturalize to that language and that culture. I am already slightly disappointed that the Reef people understand how to speak English at all. They're described as being they're described as being more isolationist and kind of separate from the rest of the Na'vi people, and so. The fact that they know English at all was a little bit of a surprise to me. But I also do understand the accessibility aspect of it. Like, you have to have, the English in there for the majority of the audience. Whereas there's people like you and me who would love to see the entire film and not be like, it's just not practical.
And I think it does a really good job of appealing to people like us who, like, I love world building. I'm so in The Mandalorian, they had an at that was fishing in a village. Yep. I was like, that is everything that I want in expanded universe. Anything, like, I want to know how these things work, and I got some of that in Avatar, enough to wet my whistle. But there was also stuff that's going to appeal to everyone, like the big ship fight where they're just wrecking shit.
Yeah,
but It's got something for everyone, which I really liked. I'm so excited to see the next one. I really want to see where it goes. I didn't know that it's going to be about, like, there's going to be more features of the other. Are they clans? Are they other clans on the planet? Because when I saw the clip and he was helping the whale get the spear out of it, I was like, can they breathe underwater? I felt like they had to have their Earth's air or whatever Pandora's atmosphere is.
Yeah. No, they cannot breathe underwater. I'm assuming at that point they've learned a little bit of how to free dive from the coastal people, but not even the coastal people can breathe underwater.
So this other clan is in the ocean.
They're on the coast, like it looks like mangrove roots, like right along the coast.
How big, how much of the planet is mapped? Like, do you know?
No, we don't know. We have a terrible reference for where any of this is happening. So,
and do we know if there's anything on the big planet or no?
the big planet's a gas giant, so probably not there. But there are other moons in the Alpha Centauri system, and there's rumors that the other moons might get explored at some point in the sequels. We'll see.
You know, it'd be cool. James bring it all full circle, because it's all owned by one gigantic monster corporation, all run by a hideous mouse. Just throw some xenomorphs in there. Just get them in. Just have them at least a reference. Like, why not? Space.
Maybe
space
an Easter egg at some point, you know?
Yeah, an Easter egg.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's more Disney speed.
Yeah. They'll throw in some quips for you.
Yeah.
Ruin what film is. But that is all that we've got. So where can people find all of your resources? Where can people find you? Like, I want people to be able to follow up and actually get deeper into Avatar.
Sure. On pretty much every social platform that can be used, that's at Kelotral which is literally at Kelotral in the Na'vi language. Kelotral.org is our website. You can also find everything from there. And then all the primary conversation happens on discord.gg/Kelotral.
Well, I'm so thankful you were here. I'm beyond excited to see where all of this goes. And I'm excited to see what you think of the film and your community. You can find us at gatecrashers.fam. You can find us on all social media at gatecrasherspod. Thank you, and we'll see you next week.